So first of all, thank you, Roberto, for taking the time for this interview.
Pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of sport as a child?
Well, I was very fortunate to be born in a football family. My dad was mad about the game. He played football. He was born in Zaragoza and then he moved to my hometown. And then he settled there, but he was a manager in the local teams, and that was my activity on Sunday. I would follow him. I would be the club mascot, the team mascot. Anything I remember has been in a dressing room. And from the age of 2 years old, it was the activity in the morning, kicking a football and maybe feeling that I loved just that environment and that action.
So it was from the very beginning, with the genes, you were linked to sport?
Yeah, I don't think I had a choice. It was an activity that I truly, obviously I have to blame my dad, but it was a natural thing. It felt really good. I wanted to be involved in football at the moment that I had those weekends with it.
Okay. Who had the biggest impact on you and your experience of sport as a child?
I would say that obviously my mom and my sister, they were always doing sports. My sister played basketball, so in the family we had that. But my dad, what he always shocked me is that he would do things perfect. Anything that he had to do with the sport, he was always fair, he was always honest, always respectful, but he wanted to win, and he would prepare everything down to detail. When he was the coach of amateur sides, for him it was like coaching Real Madrid, Barcelona, or the Red Devils. Everything had to be really in pristine condition, and he would just start talking to me at a very young age about tactics and partnerships and numerical advantages, which is something that developed that love for what you do, and you realize that wasn't just a sport, it was just a passion and a way of living. That's what I've learned. If you do a sport, it needs to be full of enjoyment, and it needs to be a passion of yours.
Yeah, you talked about competition, so that your dad, he was really thinking about how can we win it. So competition it's also a risk of going into the more, like I say, too competitive.
Yeah, I think any extreme is unhealthy. I do feel that I love sport with a competitive nature. I found it very difficult to go and do a 5 miles run unless I do a time to beat. Sometimes competition doesn't need to be with another player or another person, it can be with yourself and the standards that you set. But the meaning of the sport is that you can become better, and unless you measure it, you cannot become better. How do you measure it? Well, you can lose a game, try to win, try to become better, try to do things quicker, try to do things. It's almost like playing golf. You want to get closer to that hole. This is a real choice. Me personally, I had to have that competitive side, but not to be unhealthy. You need to understand that you need to sometimes lose and experience losing in order to become better, and that's part of it. I think doing sport, you need to find a way to enjoy competition.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really the positive way of competing. Of course, you have been involved in professional sport now for more than 30 years. So, what have been the big changes or evolutions in youth talent development?
I would say in the environment that you create. I think before, when I started, it was almost you expected to be told what to do, and you had no way to answer back, and your opinion wasn't taken in consideration, and it was a generation that you were told to do what they told you. That's it. I've seen that a big change. What hasn't changed in football is 11 against 11. The sizes is everything the same. The skill on the pitch, the love for a good action, that hasn't changed. But I've seen that now you need to be a bit more understanding of the new generation. The new generation very rarely accepts criticism. You have to be very, very aware of how you try to correct a bad action. And then you see that the new generation doesn't play on the outside as much as they used to do. Now there's more screens, there's a lot of digital action in their learning, and I think you need to adjust. And as a coach, you can't fight that a young person will have a screen in their lives. You need to use it in your advantage. Try to take videos, try to put that content. You can affect the content that they have in those tablets. And then it's the relationship. It needs to be both ways. It needs to be filled with a respect of relationship, and you need to be able to listen. And that would be the biggest change that I've seen over the last 30 years in football development, is that the relationship between the coach and the young participants.
And what about the consistencies over this long period? The same things that really stay the same?
When the natural talented player likes to work less, and the ones that they are less talented, they like to work harder. That doesn't change. And ideally, talent without work, I don't think it beats the hard work without talent. And I think it's trying always to allow the naturally talented individual to understand football, that is a team sport. So you need to be aware of the others, use the others for you to be able to become better. And the other way around, the hard-working players, you need to try to be more calm, more composed, and try to look at the skill of that action, and that stayed the same, totally the same.
Thank you. So, given your experience as a football manager in clubs like Swansea City, Wigan Athletic and Everton, what are your expectations of coaches working with younger players?
I think it's just to develop a real enjoyment, a real passion. When I look at a player or a young player, that you see that they got a real love for the game. It seems that they are more prepared to face adversity. Any career of any young player that he wants to become a professional, you will get a lot of setbacks, and it's how you react to those. And I feel that when you have a player, a young player, that he developed that love for the game, is almost, you accept it. There will be setbacks and you want to get up and just get better. When you see that sometimes the relationship between the young player and the sport and the football in this case is not a love relationship, it's almost sometimes you happy to just give up at the first time that it gets tough. And then you understand that sometimes we got young players that they are there because the parents want them to be there, rather than him being in love. And I think as a young coach or a coach of young players, you need to develop that real interrogation of why you're there as a young person, and how can you develop that love for the game, and why do you love the game, and work at it, because that will prepare you indirectly for being an adult in the sport.
Okay, we made the transition to your current role in the Belgian national team. You have given international debuts to young players like Yuri Tillemans at age 19, Jeremy Doku at age 18, Timothy Castagna at age 22, and Sami Lokonga at age 21. How do you track and integrate these young players into a squad with experienced internationals like Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard and Thibaut Courtois?
Well, I think it's easy for a coach to integrate young players, very easy. Now, to make them successful, it's not down to the coach. It's down to creating an environment where the experienced players are going to accept the young players to come in. And I think that's a big advantage that we have. We have incredible, talented, experienced players, but they want to share and they want to bring new players into the environment. And that's been the real success of the players that you mentioned, that at a very young age, without experience at international level, they were made feel comfortable. And the way I track all the young players is I always look for that outstanding quality. You never look if they are ready. There's a lot of talk about the finished article. Football is not perfect. You never fully finished. It's impossible to be perfect at everything. What you could do is to be very, very good at something. And if you're very, very good at something, you can use it in the structure of a team. So when you're mentioning Jeremy Doku, we needed someone that could take people on, and that will be one situation. Jeremy was ready to do that. Obviously, with the help of the experienced players around him, he was able to start a game, one of the most important games that we had in the last year against Italy in the Euros. You got a player like Yuri Tillemans that if he wants to be a playmaker, always offers himself to the ball, technically very gifted to play short, to play long. Again, that outstanding quality was there at a very young age. And then it's providing the right environment for that outstanding quality to be accepted. And as a coach, you need to make sure that the team is balanced.
It's ready.
By fitting all those outstanding qualities.
Yeah, you made a point about the individual and try to find the right place in that collective, in that team environment. To have the connection with your outstanding quality that you fit in the team environment.
Yes, I think obviously is the easiest fit is when there is a need in the team. When you've got a need, then you can find a youngster that you can provide that. It's harder when you've got a youngster that is showing good moments and good signs at club level. And from the outside you feel, well, he's ready for international football, but maybe what he can do, you got another 2 players that they've been doing it for 50 games at international level. So sometimes the easy integration of a young player into an experienced environment is finding a need in that experienced environment, and that allows the fitting to be very natural.
Okay, yeah, thank you. My last question. ICOACHKIDS or movement aims for every child to have access to a positive sport environment that fosters a love for sport, play and physical activity. What would be your top tip to help coaches to achieve this?
Try to understand the person that you have in front of you, the person that you're coaching. Try to understand that person. Try to understand why he's there. Is he there because he's forced to be there? Is that because of his the choice? How can you always connect with that individual? And then use the excuse of the sport, in this case of football, to get to know each other. And sometimes it's only that connection happens when the person sees the coach as someone that is helping you to achieve what you want to achieve. You could play sport to become healthier. Well, if as a coach you could give him a little tip to drink good water after the session, and that would strengthen that relationship. A young person plays football because he wants to become a professional one day and play for the Red Devils. Well, you could give him videos of what Eden Hazard is doing, or just go and watch a game together. I think getting that connection becomes for the relationship of knowing why that young person is playing the sport, and then help that person to reach his or her dreams. And I think that connection is what it makes the love for the game a lot stronger. Yeah,
and I think it's like you say, when the love of the game is there, it's easier to learn.
Totally.
To learn the game.
I think you open up to be coach. I think the coachability and if you're a coach, you gotta be a good coach if the person that you're coaching wants to be coach. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to get in. So I think you need to connect at the human level, and the way to connect to a human level is to show that as a coach you can help that person to reach the reason why he's there. Is to make friends. Any reason is valuable. It doesn't need to be just to become professional or to be the best in the group. It doesn't. It can be for many reasons. Sometimes it could be to switch off from being in a difficult environment at home, which happens. I think that's the real power of the coach, to understand the member that you have in your team, and then just in a human level help that person to love their sport.
To love and to enjoy not only your training sessions, but also as the relationships with your teammates, with your coach, with the whole football community.
Yes, no, that is a wonderful role, to be the coach and being able to assess how you can bring happiness to the people in that environment. But it is true that knowing the reason why that person is there will help the coach to fulfill the love for that sport, and from that point you're reaching a new level of learning when you are open, when you're loving what you're doing, when you see that that's a purpose because you're going to tick your box. No, everyone has the same meaning of wanting to be doing sport. Sometimes it's health reasons, sometimes I want to win.
Yes,
wanting to win, as long as you do it in a respectful manner and you can control your emotions. Sometimes it's because you want to improve of what you do. Sometimes it's because you want to get to know other people, you want to practice a language. Anything is a good reason, but I think that relationship would help the coach if you know the reason why that person is there and developing that towards the dream of that person. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas with the big audience of our online conference. I'm sure that they will be very happy to learn from one of the best coaches in the world. So, You're very kind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kris. Pleasure. Thank you.